على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتون إلا وأنتم مسلمون. أما بعد. Truly, our praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We praise Him from the depths of our hearts. We praise Him in times of ease and in times of constriction. And we seek His beautiful assistance that has been laid out to us in the reality of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this beautiful reality has beautiful principles and foundations. The Prophet Islam taught us things that have lasted the test of time and that will last all the way into the day of judgment. That will continuously go through different lands and different people, different places and spaces, minds and hearts, and begin to rectify them in any situation that they may find themselves. So we seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's assistance. It's within inside of the Quran, it's within inside of the Sunnah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's within inside of the beautiful critical definition that the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam give to his reality and give to that. It's inside of the historical moments that we've seen throughout the course of Islamic history, human history, that we have seen that faith and morals and unity amongst humanity defines the world in which we live in. So we seek His assistance and we seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's beautiful forgiveness that enriches us, that opens us up to new dimensions of our own self, and it gives us special mercy both in this world and the hereafter. We believe in Allah and we put our trust and dependency upon Him. And we seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the evils of our own egotistical impulses. And also too, when those impulses become actual action, they actually take form. And whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides to guide, nobody can lead them astray. And whoever Allah azza wa jal allows them to go down the path of misguidance because they chose that. They were warned internally. They were warned externally. They were warned individually and collectively. In the material of their life, in the technology of their life, in the teachings of their lives. But they were warned. There were signs. There were certain things that they encountered that told them something contrary. But they choose to go down that path. Nobody can bring them back except Allah. And we are witnessing that there is no deity worthy of worship, no other God except Allah, the one with no partner. And we are witnessing that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sayyidina Muhammad, our Master Muhammad, our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Khatam al-Nabi'een, the one who is the seal of prophecy, Imam al-Mursaleen, the one who is the leader of all the messengers, Habib Rabbil Alameen, who is the love of the Lord of the worlds. And that love extends into His way. That love extends to you because you are a follower of Him. We are witnessing that reality within every single moment. That we are witnessing that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the servant and the messenger of Allah. May peace and blessings be upon him, be upon his companions, his family, his wives, and you, my dear brothers and sisters. Allah Azza wa Jalla reminds us in the Quran about consciousness. And a beautiful ayah reminds us to be conscious of Him calling out to us, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, all you who have attained some type of faith, who have responded to the call of faith. Be conscious of Allah, which is His due right, and do not perish, do not die, except in a state of active submission. You know, when we come into the masjid, you know, there's an etiquette that we should follow. When we walk into this place, this is an abode of mercy. This is an abode of possibilities. This is an abode of fadl, of like this rahmah, this love, this mercy, these blessings that you don't deserve. This is like a beautiful vortex that you begin to walk into that can completely transform your life, whether you know it or not. There's an etiquette of stepping in with the right foot. There's an etiquette of a dua to say, "Oh Allah, open up the gates of mercy for us." Salaming the people who are in here, that's a dua in and of itself. That you wish peace upon the person who is actually in here, the soul that is actually in here. Because if you go just beyond the eyes and the hair and the clothes, you're looking at a soul that's on a journey back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with you. There's an etiquette of coming in here. And there's an impression that begins to happen on you for just even stepping into this realm, period. You know, this is like our little safe haven here. From amongst all the nonsense out here, you can come in here and find that rahmah. You can find angels in here that are your friends, that are happy for you to come here. Happy for you to actually be here so that they can make dua for mercy to descend into your life. For some of your problems to be fixed that you have caused yourself. This is kind of the place which we're in and much more. One of the etiquettes is to put down all things and begin to listen. And one of the things that continuously talks to us is our phone. There's notifications. There's reminders on WhatsApp. There's things that pop up in TikTok that when you get out of here, you'll probably have 13 different notifications probably. And what the interesting thing is about the phone is set on an algorithm, many of these platforms. There's certain information that it draws from you to learn your process of thinking. And what it does is it brings things to you along the way of what you have been choosing. So it begins to impress itself upon you and in your mind. Now there's a back end to this as well. There's people who have orchestrated some of these different processes, whether it be government, whether they be individual, whether it be corporate, whether they be just a certain fitness plan maybe. There's many different apps that we have now. But there's a certain impression that it wants to leave on you. There's a certain reality that it wants to bring you into sometimes. This is the reality of our technology. Most of us as human beings, we're products many times, and we don't really realize it. We're products primarily of two different things, of your politics and of your economics. And that's what begins to happen unless you unleash your technology. Unless you unleash your spiritual technology that you have inside. And that's really the only technology that really matters. That's what actually shapes humanity. Because again, if you go back and you start to trace where it all stems from, there's somebody behind the computer, there's a boardroom somewhere that has collectively made a decision to enact some of these policies and procedures on these different platforms as well. And there's an essence to them, there's an internal reality to them that defines where they can go and how they navigate through that process. If we take a look at historically, that they mentioned, like Facebook in and of itself, talked about that their primary demographic who they were trying to target in the beginning was the old people that used to watch QVC, which many of you probably don't even remember now, the younger people here. Targeting people who were staying up late at night to watch certain things on TV about selling certain products like vacuums and everything. Those lonely people. So there was a clear intention in the process of how they were beginning to actually utilize or beginning to develop and scale their platform. Then once they understood monetization, then it changed even more. So the reason why I mention this is that one way or another, depending where you're getting your information from, depending what you're beginning to interact with, will form you And that's what will happen. If there's no internal constitute, if there's no internal foundation to help you navigate through this place, you will become a product. You will be formed. That's what will happen. It's the nature of it. If you don't know how to filter through the process of things, whatever CNN says, whatever ABC says, whatever stuff, you'll listen to it because you have no internal foundation to stand upon. So the technology begins to form you, but it's not. Like, again, if we trace it back, it's coming from someplace. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and a very well-known hadith, right, that we know of, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, right, that all actions are judged by intention, and you will get what you intended, right? And then he puts something, فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. It's a very interesting part of the hadith. A lot of people don't go deeper. Whoever has made immigration to Allah and His Messenger, then they have truly made migration to that. So whoever has moved towards that, whoever has placed their intention upon that, whoever has been in the process of actually development and stabilizing themselves internally, and beginning to move with the process of change, beginning to discipline themselves in different ways, and especially in this particular situation. This was a situation where they had to move out from Mecca and they go to Medina, and some even before that went to Abyssinia. That they made an actual conscious intention to change. And now take a look at where they're moving. Let's take a look at the two places, and it'll give you some understanding of how you should move in your life. Number one, Abyssinia. They didn't know anything about the place. The only thing they knew is that the Prophet ﷺ said there will be a just king there. They didn't know too much about the place. Many of them didn't know the language, didn't know the people, but they moved out on that reality because their intention was firm, their foundation was established, the direction was known, so they will change the place, not the place changed them. That's what will happen. When you're going to Medina, it's a ghetto, it's a hellhole, as they say. There's been warfare from there for umpteen amount of years. It's filthy. They had to clean it. But because they were in a state of truth, their intention was firm, they changed the place, not the place changed them. That's what happens. And that's the Prophet ﷺ is saying that. Then he goes on, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after that to say, but if you have made hijrah for something, you see what like if you have made something for the dunya, like you have made something for the dunya, like there's a materialistic position that you have. There's something for the worldly gain that you want to benefit out of this situation. There's something that you want to grasp onto that's tangible when it comes to like the material, and it's not rooted deeply in the one who created it. It's not rooted in the one who follows the Creator to every single point, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Or it's to become married to somebody. It's because you want to go and be with somebody. فَهِجْرَاتُهُ إِلَّا مَا حَجْرَ إِلَيْهِ. Then you have made migration to what you have made migration to. You'll be left to it. And what will happen is, one of the beauties of this hadith is that he's showing you, and he's showing you through the way of him and the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the companions, is that how they had beautiful foundation and definition. But if you go contrary, it will form you. If you go for some aspect of the dunya and it's not rooted in getting closer to Allah and His Messenger, it will form you. It will begin to define you. It will begin to shape you. It will begin to contort you. It will begin to defile you. That's what will happen at the end of it all. Because somebody else is working that process. There's a definition. There is a reality behind whatever that is of the dunya. Now, alhamdulillah, there was actually one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ who wanted to marry one of the women companions. He wanted to do that. He was an idol worshiper. He took shahada. He did these things. And they knew, the people knew who he was. Alhamdulillah, who he attached himself to was sincere and was formed properly by Allah and His Messenger. So he gets the benefit of that. But many times in what we experience here, especially in this world now, it will form you in a way that you'll lose yourself. and you won't find yourself. So again, the technologies of the self, right? One of the things that they talk about that's very important is that, again, these disciplines that human beings have done through the course of history. You know, if you take out some time every single day, like just for the brothers who come for Fajr and the sisters who come, or whatever, that comes regularly, you start to see that there's a pattern that starts to happen, right? Just from a basic level, that there's a certain time that you wake up. There's a certain obligation that you begin to cultivate and feel. Sometimes Allah uses you or begins to develop you in very unique ways. Like you're supposed to open up the masjid. You're supposed to call the adhan. You were supposed to meet somebody there. And at that last moment, oh man, I don't want to get up, but that impulse, that connection begins to drive you there. So even sometimes it's not completely pure in the beginning, but you see from these disciplines that it begins to shape and it begins to mold you. If a person sits down at the time and begins to write out things over and over and over again, it begins to shape the character, it begins to shape the structure of the human. Then, the byproduct is it begins to shape the things around him or her. These technologies that we possess within inside the self are very important. These are scientific. Reading the Quran in a certain melodious tone, a certain qira'ah, like a certain recitation, has this effect. There's a difference between what they call hafs and warsh, meaning like even the way that they recite, there's different points of reflection that people stop on and begin to reflect upon. Our deen is so scientific, it will blow your mind. And one of the things that the Prophet of Islam was sent here to do was to give you this foundation, to give you this stability so that you would impact wherever you went, not allowing it to impact you. And in this process, we all differ in our skills and abilities. We all differ in our power and our strength. And collectively, we make a force that can't be reckoned with. But we first have to acknowledge and realize and stabilize our intention. And then we stabilize our intention and fuel it with the different practices that the Prophet ﷺ had given us. And I don't just mean salat. Salat is one form. You have to go further in your salat as well. Coming prepared, not just with wudu externally, but have you actually purified yourself from all the doubts and the misgivings and the self-regret when you come into the door. When you make the takbir, Allahu Akbar, is everything greater to you than Allah? That's a question you have to ask. Have you actually pushed back everything? Have you allowed it? Because they even know scientifically that what the predominance of your thought begins to change the structure of your brain. What you are actually exposed to, what you begin to think of, what you begin to look at. They did a very deep study on pornography. It begins to actually change the way in which your neurons and your brain are structured. They change or switch to the other side of the brain. That's just on the brain level. What else can it do? Right? So again, stabilizing the intention with these spiritual technologies like prayer, reading Quran, coming with believers around good company that remembers Allah and His message. These are all certain technologies. But I want to point out 4 main things that you can really work on. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said in a few different hadith talking about, like, I leave you the Quran and my Ahlul Bayt. I leave you the Quran, right, and the Sunnah and the way of my 4 rightly guided. That's another one. One of the things that he's pointing to in these different hadith is a very beautiful thing, is that there is certain qualities and certain character traits that are really predominant in people that if they utilize, that it will harmonize their realities. That's what you'll see. You'll see that from Hassan and Hussein, alayhi salam, alayhi salam. You'll see this from them. You'll see that from the household of the Prophet ﷺ, even going outside of that. There are certain traits they have. You'll see this from Abu Bakr. You'll see this from Umar. You'll see this from Uthman. You'll see this from Ali, radiallahu anhum. You'll see certain character traits that you can possibly possess as well, or that you may have that are predominant in you, that you can utilize, and it begins to stabilize you, and it's a technology that if you work on, wondrous things will happen. We don't sometimes believe in these things, and we have to come to that grips. There's sometimes we don't. Like when we get sadaqah, do you understand that there's a spiritual vibration, I would say, that goes out, and that can help with curing sicknesses. They even know scientifically that if you give out a dollar, this is for scientists. So, I mean, what does the Prophet pointing us to? That's even deeper than that. That if you give out a dollar, you get $1.60 back. They prove it. They're doing that. You get $1.60 back later on down the line. The Prophet has been talking about this. But again, there's some qualities, there's some traits that I want to mention really quickly. They're called 4 cardinal virtues. Even the Christians point out these virtues. There's 4 virtues that make up pretty much primarily the human. And the Prophet embodied all of these to the maximum point of a human. But I'll just give you some examples, possibly, that we can utilize. And the beautiful thing is this, I'll give you one beautiful for the sisters, is that Khadija, radiallahu anha, possessed all of them. Possessed all of them in some of the highest levels of women. The first one is courage. Courage. One of the things that Abu Bakr Siddiq, radiallahu anhu, was known for was his courageousness. And I don't mean just on the battlefield or things of that nature, but his courageousness to take this step to defy everything that the society was telling him around him. That the Prophet ﷺ, this was something new, this was something bad, this was not something good, that he was one of the first adults to accept Islam. Not only was he courageous, and what it began to produce is that even in times when the Prophet ﷺ mentioned things to the Sahaba, like the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, this courage developed so much of a stability in his life that when they were questioning at some point, how does this treaty look? Because it looked from the outward like, this is all against us. All these policies are going to hurt us almost. And Umar even goes to him and said, what do you think, Abu Bakr? He said, didn't you guide us to everything else? Didn't he guide us? You think he's going to not guide us now? Like it was this stability that was unwavering. It was such a stability that he was able to take time out of such a precious job of commanding all of the believers, that he was able to find a woman that was blind and began to feed her and help her with the duties in her house every single day. Because he understood the benefit of it both in this life and the hereafter, even to the point where he was so subtle in how he did things. He was so courageous in taking out of some of his time, some of his sleep, some of his family situations, that even when he passed away, there was somebody who saw that beauty that took it on, Umar. And he went to do the same thing. And then the lady in the middle said, the man died that used to come and do this, didn't he? And she said, he said, how do you know? He said, because he used to take the pits out of the dates for me. Courage. Khadija, radiallahu anha. Courage. When he comes off the mountain and he's shaking, she covers him. She confirms him. She confirms him not only in that, but she confirms him in his life. She puts all her money up to the point where she got over it, she would lose her teeth. She lost her teeth, she got over it, but she put everything on the line. And she never saw Medina. She never saw the end of Medina. But that was that courage, that was that trust, that was that stability. That was that intention. And it goes on to today. Again, courage. Justice. One of the things that Umar radiallahu anhu was known for was being just. We have to be just with ourselves, and one of the first things we have to do is we have to be honest. Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu taqallaha wa qulu qawlan sadida. Oh, you who have attained faith, be conscious of Allah and speak a word that is direct and to the point. We have to be first justful and truthful with ourselves. We have to bear witness to ourselves. We have to bear witness, are we a product of our society, or are we producing our society? Are we being molded externally, or are we being liberated internally? Because this is what this possesses. Islam is a liberation. And we've seen this historically with the Mongols as well. They come and conquered and took over an area, and they end up becoming Muslim because the battle still goes on. It's not just the external, but the internal jihad still goes on. And it shaped and molded and it impacted them so much, they changed. We have to be just with ourselves. We have to give our due portion to our spiritual technology. Are we reciting Quran on our off times? We're about 100 days away from Ramadan. What's the situation in what we're doing? How are we beginning the process of beginning to enter Ramadan? The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that my ummah would abandon the Quran later on. The ulama interpretate this. They don't say that it's just off to the side like we do most of the year. It says no. They said that if you're not at least reciting it twice a year fully, you have abandoned it. That's the ulama's interpretation. Allahu A'lam. That you have abandoned it. Because the question is, again, what is forming our world vision? It's very important. If you're not reciting it, if you're not learning about the Prophet ﷺ, the Imam got up here last week and said a beautiful part, especially about colonization, that the French made sure that when they began to teach Islam in certain places, they did not want you to know about the seerah. They'll give you a little hadith, they'll give you a little these things. They don't want you to know the continuity of the journey, though. They don't want you to know the subtle point so that you can begin to be liberated and you can point out the flaws. We've had this not just happen there, trust me, there's Muslims who are colonizing as well, too, in the different lands. We have to be real. We have to be just. Control. So we got courage, justice, control. Discipline is a very important part. Even when we're in the salat, we can't move like that. We can't eat. We can't speak. This shows you there's a technology inside of yourself. There is a reality inside of yourself. But if you begin to work on it, control, not getting into things that don't concern you, not speaking unless thinking before you begin to impact the area, even in a vibrational sense. And the last one is wisdom, and we'll get into that in a moment. Allahumma ighfir lana wa lana. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Ashraf al-Anbiya wa Mursaleen. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam kathira. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal asr. Innal insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Truly, by the test of time, we all have a limited amount of time. The human being is in a complete state of loss. Except those, now remember the exception, that you begin to change things, right? Because it's not, except those who believe and do action behind it. And then go even further, counsel each other the truth and counsel each other to patience. So the last virtue that I want to mention is about wisdom. And the beautiful thing even about the surah that we just mentioned, which is wal asr, by the time, is that the last point that is mentioned is the virtue of sabr. And actually, out of sabr, out of patience, comes all virtues. But again, one of the virtues that I want to mention again is wisdom. Wisdom is knowledge put into action, and then understanding it very deeply as well. The thing is, the beautiful thing is that there's people who have come before us, who have written numerous texts, who have shown us certain things in history, who have shown us certain miracles that they have performed as well. Both prophets and friends of Allah, that testify to the beauty and the potential and the technology that you have inside of you. And the reason why I'm mentioning the word technology so much is because we're so caught up in these things, we forget about what Allah put inside of us. That you have wisdom that has already been set down from the ages, from Adam alayhi salam down, that has been refined and completely, not only refined, but also completely clarified by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is something that we have to begin to really understand. And again, where are we looking for our wisdom from? Is it being impressed upon us? And it's another type of wisdom, it's not really wisdom. Or are we finding it internally inside ourselves because it's already there? Do we do these things? See, one of the things the Prophet ﷺ, like even today, I'll end off at this point. Today, the Prophet ﷺ said this is a very special day. This is Jumah. One of the things that he talked about was that there's a certain special knowledge that comes to somebody who recites Surah Al-Kahf today from this Friday to the next. There's a certain light that comes from this Friday to the next. Have you done that? That's one. Okay. He also too talked about today, just today, that this is one of the best days, and so do a lot of prayers upon me, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said that. This isn't for him, this is for you. He's the rahmatul lil alameen. He is the mercy and the love to all the world. Have we taken some time out, even if we can't read right now, but we want to read, we want to learn about the Prophet ﷺ. We want to learn about our deen. That we've taken out some time to sit maybe someplace for 10 minutes and just go, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. The same thing that we do in the prayer. And by that, you're internally saying to Allah, teach me about the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Allow me to become like his character, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allow me to understand some of the deeper dimensions of the wisdoms. Have you taken out the time to do that? Because the vibration that you're even saying changes the actual molecular structure of yourself. That's scientific. It's the water. We know this. Even inside of the bee, one of the key components to the honey, what Allah mentions in the Quran about the bee, right? One of the key components to the honey, which is a cure, is not just the pollen which it picks up. It's actually the vibrations of the wings on the honey. That's what makes it that actual medicinal properties. So what vibration are you putting out? Are you impressing yourself upon others like the bee, or are you being impressed upon? Are you opening up some of these different dimensions of the technology that you have? The key components. We're going to Ramadan. All of it's there for you. The Quran's here. You just got to pick it up. The life of the Prophet ﷺ. There's a bunch of books. There's audios out there. Are you learning it, trying to come out to be your best self? Or continuously are we just scrolling on the gram, on the different things as we go down the reel, as we go down these things, and it's beginning to impress itself upon us, and it's beginning to shape us and form us. And we're being told something that we don't even know the truth, and we're believing it. You've seen it firsthand. Inshallah, if everybody can move over, because the brothers are standing, if people can move over, inshallah ta'ala, before I do dua. If you can move over, because everybody's standing at the door here, inshallah ta'ala. Jalla. May Allah Azza wa Jal enlighten us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to become people of ihsan, people who Allah Azza wa Jal has talked about, that everything has ihsan upon it. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد عبدك وحبيبك ورسولك النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما بقدر عظمة ذاتك في كل وقت وحين اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا شر ما قضيت فإنك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك وإنه لا يذل من واليت ولا يئز من هديت باركت ربنا وتعاليت اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات والمحسنين والمحسنات الأحياء منهم والأموات ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وادخلنا الجنة مع الأبرار يا عزيز يا غفار برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم إنا نسألك من خير ما سألك منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذ منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأنت المستعان عليك البلاغ ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. أقيموا الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله جعل السلام على الفلاح إقامة الصلاة كإقامة الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله استووا
الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك وإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. أيها النبي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, it's good to have Basir back closer now. Inshallah ta'ala, so when the takbir comes, inshallah. May Allah Azza wa Jalla bless all of you, please. There's a couple of announcements. First and foremost, if you can, please donate monthly, donate to the masjid. Definitely the help is needed. Obviously, the congregation is growing. The line was out the door today, and so things need to, maintenance, lights, water. There's all types of things that go along with that. Also, to Sunday, inshallah ta'ala, we will have the class from 11 to 1, inshallah ta'ala, 11 to 1. So please, if you want some explanation of Quranic exegesis or Quranic tafsir explanation of Quran, and a couple other things as well, inshallah ta'ala. Imam Abdul Hafiz will not be here, but inshallah I'll be doing the class for a couple times. So, and if you have any questions or concerns, please, the admin is out there in the corner. You can see Abdullah or Hassan. And may Allah Azza wa Jalla bless you. Please keep in dua all the people in Gaza, especially in Sudan, because that's something that's not really being talked about. They just had probably about maybe almost close to 1,000 people killed the other day as well, and that's a continuous genocide that's going on there that's not being talked about. So please keep everybody in your dua. And again, what you do in your personal life, what you do in your own time with your worship begins to actually have an impact on people and begins to have an impact on situations. And we should be impacting our areas, not being impacted and scared and all these different types of things because, a couple of people get into office that we don't like. We are the last line of defense for people. So may Allah Azza wa Jalla bless you. Please keep us in your du'as. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala.